Hey, it's Shane with GotRom.com. This video is about when does hip morphology matter. So if you've followed me for any length of time, you know that I help people who have hip problem, hip pain, and I teach them stretches and tissue work and strengthening exercises to help them improve their hip pain and hip function. Some people want to know, like, is surgery ever appropriate? When is it appropriate? Like, when are my hips bad enough that they warrant surgery? And I can't give any definitive, clear, like, if you've got, if your hip alpha angle is a certain angle, then you need hip surgery. If the cyst in your hip is, a certain size, then you definitely need hip surgery. And the reason is because even with almost the worst hip you can imagine, there's so much that you can do with tissue work, stretching, strengthening, and lifestyle modification and changing the way that you live, that even people with horrible alpha angles, the most gigantic cyst in their hip, labral tears and stuff like that, often don't even have pain in their hips. And so there's no clear-cut answer on this. This is why this is a very frustrating topic for so many people. But I want to kind of give you some sort of guidelines for when you can know, okay, maybe for me surgery is an appropriate option. So I would say that if you have maxed out the non-surgical options first, the cheaper, less invasive, less risky options, then you consider surgery. If you're not out of pain to a sufficient degree, or you haven't restored the amount of function that you want to have in your life, then it's time to consider surgery. But how many people have actually maxed out the non-surgical options? I'd say I can think of maybe one or two. And those people tried everything they could non-surgically, it didn't help. I said, I think surgery is probably the best bet for you. They went and got the surgery and it actually really helped them. So what are the non-surgical options? Let's break it down a little bit. There's physical therapy, there's the FAI Fix program that we teach, there's yoga, there's massage, acupuncture, dry needling, chiropractic, things like that. You can dabble with all of them, but if you haven't maxed out tissue work, stretching, and strengthening, then I don't think that you've maxed out the most helpful non-surgical things. So what would it look like if you actually had totally maxed out tissue work? That would be you use very pinpoint tools to work on the attachment points of all of your muscles, and you've cleaned up those attachment points such that when you press on there with these different mobility tools, there's not really too much pain, there's not any kind of dense, junky tissue. Like, your muscles are soft and supple and healthy. That's how muscles are supposed to be. They're supposed to be soft and supple. If I kind of press really intensely on my biceps because they don't have any knots or trigger points, it doesn't really hurt. But if you get into these corners of your hip that maybe have some scar tissue, you press on them and it does hurt, then that means there's still work that you can do with tissue work. So you haven't maxed out tissue work until you can press in any part of your hip muscles and it doesn't hurt in response to massage. You also haven't maxed out stretching if you can't get into all of the basic poses in yoga. You could say that'd be one measure. If you're a yogi and you can't stretch in all the basic poses, not like the most advanced poses like full splits and stuff like that, but if you can't even get into the basic poses and you haven't been stretching for at least a couple of years, it probably takes a couple of years to fully become kind of an expert in stretching, then you probably haven't maxed out all of the possible help you could get from stretching. So if you haven't spent a couple years stretching, there's still work that you could do. Same thing with strength training. If you haven't been under the wing, under the tutelage of a good coach who can correct your biomechanics when you're squatting, when you're lifting, when you're lunging and things like that, then you can't say that you've maxed out strengthening and motor control work. And if you haven't stretched and massaged and strengthened in a coordinated fashion for a couple of years, then you haven't maxed out those things. I've been teaching this stuff for several years and I wouldn't say that I've maxed them out, although I would say that I'm fairly progressed in them. So I can be very confident that if I still had problems with my hip, I can say, yes, Shane, you've probably maxed out tissue work, stretching, and strengthening. If you still got pain or you still can't function the way you want to, consider surgery, no problem. So like I said, I've only come across maybe one or two people who have truly maxed out those areas. The rest of you, I think, have an opportunity to keep working on the non-invasive options, and if they don't give you the results that you want, consider surgery, no problem. So Email me if you have any questions about the hip problems that you're dealing with. I'd be happy to help you, and keep working.
Yeah, be cool, be cool.